what do we got here today? We got a Boog. What the heck's a Boog? I don't know. It's got brain damage, though. Well, let's bring in the patient. Okay. So I'm going to be doing Boogsx Dr. Dummy today, and this is the official return of Dr. Dummy. So this is going to be a video for her character, and the wait list for other Dr. Dummy patients is going to be in the comments of the video. So let's get into it. Okay, so for the return of Dr. Dummy, I've decided to work on my partner's character that she's using for season 10. Now, this is partly my creation, but I've mostly left her to her own devices and occasionally just nudge things in the right direction. But I haven't sat down and done a lot of work on this thing. So her initial thing was she wanted Absolute's hammer linked to something. Okay, so I decided to go with Frost Bomb because I thought Frost Bomb has a lot of overlap with the effects of Absolute's hammer as long as it's converted to physical. We've got the pretty standard setup for everything else in here. And we're going to look at it all in more detail here shortly. But there's what she's got: the Aquaben's Thunder ring, the Castler's Refraction ring. It's unlikely we will change either of those. She's also got the Girth of Harmony, which is very solid. We'll probably stick with that, though we might re-roll it to get a different thing besides acceleration. She's also got the Bound Aquila's Sunlight Gloves, which again are probably very likely best in slot and probably going to stay with that. With that said, in regards to gear, we've got Weapon and Shield. Now, we could go two-hand with this, but she, much like myself, likes to live, so we're going to be sticking with a Shield. Currently, she's using the Miraceti C because it's a pretty solid weapon. We can definitely do a lot better with a crafted one, which we are going to work on. Shield is not bad for what, where she is. We're going to also decide what we're doing here because we want to make sure we get a good balance between armor and dodge as much as we can. Obviously, helmet, shoulders, chest, boots are all open, and we'll probably work on all those, and then necklace as well. Now, there might be a good unique for any of these slots. I haven't really looked yet, so we are going to look through those. Aside from that, what I've looked at on her her Zodiac looks pretty standard. We are going to take a closer look at it as we go through. And over here with her avatars, everything looks good with the exception of the Spica, because I told her to take Spica and I don't think she knew which one to take, so we're going to take the other on here. Outside of that, everything else on here looks solid. And her charms need work. I just don't know why I just left her character. Her charms need work, but they're not terrible. Where'd she go? Where'd she go? There she is. Her charms need work, but are not terrible. She's got double crits in every spot. She actually has a double crit maximize, which I don't have for seasonal yet, so that's great. Overall, her charms are actually pretty good. Her blessing types are a little bit off. I think we were doing 230, but we're gonna we'll fix that later. She doesn't have her charm upgrade slots done nearly at all, so that's a lot to do in here. What else? We've got some Rune Master points, which she just put into attack, hit rate, and stuff. Again, I don't think she really has a focus in what she's taken in here. See if I can find anything. Movement speed, no surprise there. She's taking the movement speed. What's her movement speed at? 1400. She says buttered lightning. She doesn't have a Abyss Stone. She doesn't have a Soul Stone, which, again, is something we are going to help her get to, because she would like to take this character into the Abyss. She has not ever played into the Abyss with her own character, so I'm hoping that with what we do here, we can get her there. The only other thing is masteries, which I can't see, but luckily I can have her bring it up on her phone so we can change her masteries. Her jewels are pretty much non-existent. We are going to work on that as well. So there's what we're working with as a base. I'm going to now start to break down what I think we can do different and options and stuff in the different sections. And then towards the end of the video, I'm actually going to craft her gear that I'm going to trade to her so that she can put it on so we can see the differences. Okay, as always, Dr. Dummy videos are going to be fairly long. Yeah, let's get into it. So after a quick review of her rune board, I have made a few changes. Nothing major, to be totally honest, because what she's got actually seems very solid. The only link rune on her main skill here that I feel like could be changed is her confidence link rune. I think she would probably be better off with extract physical energy, but only if she's got some extract energy or some earth energy white jewels, which currently she doesn't, so I don't feel like it's worth the change. Her attack speed goes from 5.0 with confidence on to 4.14, and I think that the attack speed from the stacks of earth energy would be enough to bring her back to 5. So in the future, we might change that. Everything on Frost Bomb seems solid. Now, I know she's using this mostly for the clearing effect, so the chain and the multi-shot seem fine. I'm not too worried about it as is because it seems to be doing fine. If at any of this point during the video, if you're watching and you know the skill better than I do, please let me know in the comments. I like to learn so that I can educate others. She's using Seal of Crit Chance here. Solid choice. Her crit chance isn't particularly high yet, so we're going to work on that. She's got Shield Charge for movement. She's got Shout of Justice up here, which is always good. She's got Illusion Axe to set things off, but it's not in a particularly good location. She's only got 2 things linked to it, aside from the dampened resource cost, and these 2 she could get a lot more out of this, so if we move that. Her Marksman is solid, but she could put one more thing in here in terms of, what is it called? Versatility. And legendary versatility will give this some more effect on top of giving her attack speed and penetration, I believe. So that'd be nice to have in there. So outside of that, this is what I've done with the board. Hey, Dr. Dummy, I don't want to tell you how to do your job, but why doesn't she try Blade of Death instead of Frost Bomb? I bet you it'd be better. You know what, kind stranger? You're absolutely... So, someone on stream mentioned the Blade of Death, which I somehow completely forgot about when I was initially making this. So, now I have redone the board to a better position, and even though I want to show the damage numbers at the end, I want to say that this setup, as opposed to the setup that I was using with Frost Bomb, is doing about 30% more DPS than exactly the same setup with different link runes with Frost Bomb. So Blade of Death is the way to go. Frost Bomb is fine. If you want to continue to use it, it is super okay. I converted it to physical. I added some stuff. Maybe I will. No, I'm not gonna show it because I'm just gonna use this one anyway. Okay, so I'm gonna go through the rune board with the fully now optimized. I've done some play testing with it. It has now beaten Abyss Gate 1. It has beaten the center boss in the arena. It is a fairly well-established build. I do have to talk about the shoulders at some point that I changed from my original plan. I'm not sure if I talked about that already, but let's get into the rune board. So we've got Absolute's Hammer. I switched the, what's it called? Confidence. I switched Confidence for Extract Earth Energy. Now I did that because we have quite a few white slots, and the Extract Earth Energy lets us make use of those white slots by getting Earth Energy effect and then getting quite a bit more attack from it. Rather than just having the base from Confidence, we are gaining attack speed, we're gaining stun chance, we're gaining a lot of stuff from the Extract Earth Energy on its own that we weren't getting from Confidence. Outside of that, the rest of it I think is exactly the same as we showed initially. Very solid setup for this. I don't think there's necessarily much in the way of better. I will probably do some testing on it later on, but that's good. So instead, we went with Blade of Death. Now, I went with the Source Awakening here. I got the 4 projectile count. I tried testing with Origin to see if this shotgun, so if you can get multiple hits, and you can't. So I feel like Source is probably the best one. If you were going to go into a super bleed heavy build, which you could absolutely do with this, Verity would definitely be the way to go, but we're more of a strike build. I might test a heavy bleed version of this later, but I don't know bleed particularly well, and I know it would require us to do a lot of changing in terms of our charms, and our just everything in general would have to get changed. Blade of Death with Source. We've got Mana Storm with Source. Projectile Deceleration with Verity. Now, this is the one that I'm not 100% sure on. I did put it in because I was just looking for something to do some damage amp to see how it would do on testing. This is definitely not 100% good thing. It could definitely be improved upon, but I threw it in there because it's got really solid damage amp, and the projectile speed dampening doesn't matter too much because we're generally going to be really close to the enemies anyway. Additional physical damage, again, this season with the changes is pretty solid. Strike damage, or strike is obviously really good here because we don't get the attack speed dampening because it is the triggered skill. So its attack rate is based on our absolute hammer. So every time absolute hammer hits, it's going to go off. We don't have to worry about that. So that's very solid damage amp. And then amplified physical projectile, also with Source. Yeah, a lot of Source on there. Very solid. Works great. I haven't done a ton of testing with it yet, but in terms of damage, this is significantly better than Frostbomb. We have our Marksman, which is the standard, the same as she had previously, except we added versatility so that it can get the, the additional attack enhanced skill rune duration. It's not a lot, and the additional versatility, because our attack speed's already at cap, this isn't going to make a difference. But the armor penetration, I'm not sure we're at 100, we're at cap, so this would give us a little more armor penetration while it's active. The rest of it is pretty standard. I think I already talked about it in the previous section. I don't know, because it was like 2 days ago when I did the previous section. We've got Shout of Justice with improved Shout connected to buff activation on crowd control. I did forget I wanted to change this to Lingering Shout, because right now what it's doing is giving us some damage, and we'd rather just have this have a much faster cooldown. The faster we can get this cooldown off of cooldown, the more we don't have to worry about crowd control. For our toggle, we got more stuff onto Illusion Axe. Previously, she just had the area of effect and the... what is it called? XP on kill. And we don't care about the XP because she can get through stuff. So I've switched it so we've got lower armor with the Origin Awakening, and then increased essence drop chance and increased item drop rarity for the obvious reasons to have those on there. She could switch one of these out if she was having trouble with XP gain, but for now I'd go with that. Our Tenacious Regen is our defense enhance. It's the same thing. Now you could switch enhance effect with a decreased duration, because really this is here for an emergency heal. It's not meant to be a regen thing. And actually, you know what? I probably will do that. So move your attack enhance so that you have decreased duration and time acceleration, because really Tenacious Regen is there to give us a full heal pretty much instantly. So it gives us 72% of our max health immediately, which is really nice. And you just want the cooldown as low as you possibly can. The shorter the duration's actually better, because we're using it as an instant heal and it doesn't start to cool down until the effect ends. So we're going to switch those. We've got our Seal of Critical Chance, which is necessary until we can get higher later stuff. I have to work on it. I just realized this isn't connected. I'm really sloppy in this video. I gotta say, I'm really sloppy. We have Seal of Defense because she has an ever so tiny armor issue. It's very minor. With what she's got now, plus this, she's over 90,000, which is about where you want to be before you start getting the Abyss Gate bonus stuff. So we have Seal of Defense. Eventually, when we get our extra seal, what we're going to end up doing is moving our leap attack out of here and onto the other board so that we can fit in our other 2 seals. First, Seal of Dodge, to make sure our dodge gets high enough, because again, our dodge is a little lower than I'd like. So we're going to get Seal of Dodge in there. And then we'll get Seal of Striking when we get 1600 jewel score if we get there. The Leap Attack is connected to Disarm and Use Count. Now, previously she was using Shield Strike, but because we're now going to be using Blade of Death, I want to be able to jump into the middle of packs and burst them down. And Shield Strike has a problem getting into packs, and you just kind of get to the front of them. And because we're a 360 build between the hammers and the blades, we want it to spin out from there. And Leap Attack's going to be better at just getting in there. The other issue is Leap Attack, as opposed to Shield Strike, can get you out of things. And when I was doing some testing with this, I ran into issues in Abyss Gate, and I had 3 runs that I died because I couldn't get away because of Shield Strike. Leap Attack is not as quick as Shield Strike in just moving around maps, but it's way more utilitarian. You can get in and out of Bark Prison, you can get out of groups, you can also jump up ledges and other things, which is really good for ditching. If you get big packs of champions in the Abyss Gate, there's generally sometimes you can jump over corners and get them stuck so that you don't have to deal with them. So that's the other thing. This improved technique is supposed to be connected to this, but apparently I forgot to do that too, so that we can get a little more Seal of Defense. When I make the changes, a lot of this is still very fresh, new changes. When I move, or when I unlock these, I'm going to do some moving around and get the other seals and stuff in. The one thing I do also want to get in here is Shout of Terror with buff activation on hit, so that we can get some pain effect and some damage dampening and some Predator's Roar, or some damage taken increase and some Predator's Roar and stuff, which we're going to get in once we have more room to maneuver. So that's the rune board. I think that's everything I wanted to say in the rune board. The rest of it is filmed from 2 days ago, except for the shoulders, which I'm going to go redo now. Gear for Mrs. Boog here. Now, her weapon is solid. It's actually not a terrible weapon, and it's got the maximized chance. So, her not having a lot of maximized chance elsewhere, I don't think she has any... Oh no, never mind, she's got 2. I'll just fix those up. She doesn't have a lot of maximized chance, so we would like to transfer this to her lacrima and get it, because that would still give her some decent maximized chance. But on its own, as a weapon, it's not particularly good. It's got a decent critical rate, it's got decent speed, but the damage is kind of low for a high-end weapon, and we don't really get much out of it. Now, again, in a lacrima, this would actually be pretty solid. You get the critical rate, maximized chance, mana on hit, and damage are all not bad for a beginner lacrima. So I think we're going to switch her weapon, and my current plan is to use a blunt. Why? I don't know. That's what I've decided to go with. One-handed blunt is going to be the go-to move here. Again, I don't know why. I think it'll be a solid choice. For her shield, we're going to be either armor, dodge, or armor dodge. I'm not sure. I haven't really looked in yet. We are going to end up... Actually, I forgot to talk about the stats on the weapon. I'll come back to that. We're going to be doing a pretty standard shield here. And I'm going to be, just for the record, after I talk about all this, at some point in the video, I'm going to actually do all of this crafting. So if you're wondering what exact stats, just keep watching. So the damage taken decrease is really nice here. We're definitely going to be keeping that. Probably gear armor dodge for the top. And then getting some totems so we can get some skill effect. Probably block rate or block recovery speed. And probably strike damage or something as well. And then there's some good ancients and legendaries and stuff. Mostly it's going to be just a better version of the shield she's currently already got on. Helmet is going to be actually pretty much exactly this helmet, just better in every way. We're going to get more enhanced skill. We're going to keep the hit points on there. The critical damage will still stay into physical. Enhanced skill rune effect will still be there. I can't remember what I thought we're going to put for the third on here, but I know it was decent. Sticking with the hit points, I think the suffix roll is something, again, I'll talk about it more when I get to actually making the gear. So that's going to be more or less just a better version of the same helmet. Her necklace is not terrible, but it's also not doing a whole lot for us. What we can do with a well-crafted necklace is get her an effect that she doesn't have access to currently. And what we'll probably do is try to get her one of the prefixes that gives her an effect. So she doesn't have, to my knowledge, anywhere in here, acceleration. I don't see acceleration in there. So we'll probably try to get her something like acceleration for attack speed, move speed. That's all stuff she likes. And then we can sacrifice move speed and stuff elsewhere and still be at the same speed, but get more stuff. So I think that's probably the way we'll go. The suffixes are generally going to be the damage amp on hit and the damage amp on attack. Damage amp. Oh, I need to do a full x-ray on my own head and figure out what's wrong. Damage amp on attack skill use, which is really good. A whole bunch of stuff we can do for probably not a ton of effort to get a good necklace. And as for the base, I'm not sure. I'll take a look what I have because I'm going to be doing something that I just discovered recently that I'm also going to be doing a video about, which is transferring low-level bases that have the sockets we want onto a higher level base so that we can have a better piece of gear without having to hunt them down. So the necklace is going to be a huge upgrade over what we've currently got because this is not giving us a ton. Again, attack critical rate's great, critical damage is great, element resist we don't really need, hit rates, fine. Projectile damage, the projectile link rune level is okay, but I don't think it's going to be nearly as good as something we can make. Shoulders are going to be more or less, again, a better version of what we got here. In fact, if we go look at the shoulders on my current character, these are probably going to be very similar to what we're going to get her, except that the barrier amplification here is going to be either armor or dodge amplification, or potentially this is going to be something completely different and we're going to find a way to get some more damage or something out of it. She's going to be doing the projectile version of the shoulder. I think it's a pure dodge. Actually, just go look. Let's go look at what I've got. I think it's pure dodge though. Yes, so we're going to be doing enhanced potion effect, projectile damage, pure dodge for the shoulder. We do need to get armor. We need to make sure we're getting armor and dodge for her. So her chest is also going to be full dodge. That's not the right character. One of these times I will do this correctly, guys. So if we're doing armor dodge on the helmet, then the shoulder being dodge and the chest being dodge means we're going to get more than enough dodge, because I also think... No, never mind. The Aquila Sunlight gloves are staying. I forgot what I was talking about. The boots are going to be armor barrier, and I'll talk about that, why I do that, by going to another character. But the shoulders are basically just going to be defenses and then a little bit of enhance effect. So this is either going to be dodge or armor. Probably armor now that I'm thinking about it, because we are going to have a low armor overall relative to the rest of the stuff. So we'll get the skill rune effect in here, and then we'll get item drop rarity if we can, and chaos res. If not, we'll just get hit rate here, which is totally acceptable. And then, again, hopefully we can get some good stuff there. Her boots are something that I want to go to another character, because her boots are something that people neglect in terms of damage output. You can get a lot of damage out of a really well-crafted boot, and because she's got so much damage dampening, we don't have to worry about getting the dampening on here that I normally do. So I go damage taken, dampening, move speed, strike damage, and then in this case I took strength, which is not what we're going to do on hers, but she is going to get the totem effect range for skill rune effect and the attack enhance rune, and I'm going to make sure I roll hers better than getting sharpness, but sharpness isn't terrible. We have to do it on an armor barrier base, because it's the only one that has the totem effect range that'll let us get the skill rune effect. Again, hopefully I do a better job of making them for her. there's a lot of good stuff in the ancients and stuff too. I said and stuff a lot during this section, but we're gonna go do all her gear. As for the stuff that she's already got on, did you go offline? No, I'm not on a seasonal character. Look, okay, look. You didn't come. I'm called Dr. Dummy for a reason. You didn't come here for an expert opinion. The rest of her gear, in terms of uniques, is totally fine. Again, her gloves are great. Ring, belt are all solid. When it comes to her lacrima, we are going to have to see what I've got that I can sell to her or what she's got that I can put in here. Because what she's got in here right now is really not particularly great. The ring is okay. The 2 skill level is not bad. The stats and stuff, like all of this isn't terrible, but this is not a great lacrima. And there's no real like large scale damage output, and you can get so much out of a lacrima when it comes to damage that getting basically no real damage out of here is not what we're looking for. We're definitely going to do quite a bit with her lacrima. So there's what we've got planned for her gear. Let's go take a look at her Zodiac. Let's rip through her Zodiac here. In trait 1, pretty standard, we went across the top for the attack speed and the area of effect and stuff. The area of effect isn't going to help her, but the damage on attack is. The only thing I would do is I would switch quick senses down to survival because her attack speed's already over cap, and I feel like maybe the hell. No, never mind. Because this does give damage upon attack. Stay up there. Don't listen to me. Her Zodiac Stone here is the right type of Zodiac Stone, being a flat damage or percent damage one, but we could do way better. In trait 2, we've got a little bit of chaos here. So she's gone across the bottom of the forest one when she probably should have gone across the top. Because this is more critical rate and this is more critical damage, and I feel like up here is probably the better choice. Now, I think she probably went down here for the projectile speed, which is actually not a terrible thing. Projectile speed on your hammers is pretty good. So that's something we could at least consider. The 3 points here, I'm sure, are only taken because you need to put enough points in, and there's nothing over in trait 4. So she went down into Tenacious Personality, which is solid. Tenacious Personality is something I generally take. Enhanced Skill Room Cooldown, Enhanced Skill Duration. Nothing to complain about there. Her Zodiac Stone should be armor or dodge. At least she's only really got the hit rate and the block expertise on there. We could definitely do a lot better with that stone as well. In 3, she's gone down to Gold Hunter. Now, you are going to lose some hit points, but I feel like she's going to be incredibly tanky once we get her set up. And losing those hit points isn't that big of a deal. So I'd rather have her go down and get this projectile amp, even though it's going to cost her hit points. The Zodiac Stone is, if it was re-rolled better, this is actually fine because the options are like hit point potion effect, mana potion effect, or enhanced potion effect. And for a non-potion belt user, it really doesn't matter. The enhanced potion getting boosted. So this is a pretty good rolls, 2s and 3s. Re-rolled, we could get something decent on there. It'd be fine. Now, over in trait 4, normally I do say to go through here to get the damage on attack, but this isn't even particularly good. Or the other option is going through the area damage, but she doesn't do area damage, so that's not good either. So she's done 5 points here and 3 points here. I probably recommended this ahead before, so this wasn't necessarily what she did, but it's probably close to what she did. Going through physical distortion for the status effect rate into material strengthening, absolutely solid. Always a good choice. Whoop, I just broke the... Up into elaborate attack and over to Rainbow Bridge. You don't necessarily need to go to Rainbow Bridge. Her movement speed is already really good. She doesn't necessarily need these stats or the attack speed. And going up into here, you lose 10% maximized damage to gain 10% critical damage, and 10% critical damage is not worth losing this. So I would probably drop these 2 points as we make changes further. But elaborate attack is obvious for a crit build. You always go to that. Down into Knife-like Advance. Again, I always go with this. Attack Enhanced Skill Rune Amp. It's important to note that's Amp. Resource cost Amp, obviously, as long as you're not having any mana problems, that's totally okay as well. And standard across here, going through the middle to Hands Quicker Than Light for the attack speed, and then over to Muscle Strength Explosion for hit rate and Amp. Obviously, is very solid. If we don't need this attack speed, and again, this is something that we will be looking at later, you can switch to something like Tenacious Fighter to get the hit point on attack, or just to get some hit point regen. You could go across the top for the dampening, which could be really good, but again, I think her dampening's probably going to be so good that we don't have to worry. You could go across the bottom for some physical damage, take a dampening again, but generally just through Hands Quicker Than Light is the way that most people go. Her stone here is the correct stone, however, it's only a 2-slot. The hit rate is good, obviously. We'd really like to get some hit points on all of these, though, because it will make a massive difference getting a 3 or 4 roll of hit points on all the basic ones. Over into trait 6, she's gone through the Sheild stuff. I always recommend going through this, even if you're not necessarily super trying to be tanky, because you can get quite a bit of damage taken amplification through here. I think there's 2... Yeah, physical damage. So you get 10% physical damage amp just by hitting these two, and then if you do fence, you get damage taken dampening. Down here's damage taken dampening. It's 13% damage taken dampening, which is really solid. Plus, you get a bunch of other good stuff as well. The only thing she's got in here, the stone, you will hear me always talk about this particular stone. It doesn't really matter which of the bases you get, honestly. It's crowd control dodge, dot dodge, or status effect dodge. Now, she's already got crowd control taken care of, so ideally, I would go with dot or status effect. Honestly, it's such a small percent, it doesn't make a huge difference, but for what it's worth, we just need to upgrade this stone to get hit points and stuff. Down into 7, where most people spend most of their points, she has done so. We've got Raging Particles, Physical Amp, chance to ignore armor, always good. She's gone across the top for Reverberating Aroma. It's critical and amp. It's pretty solid across the board. It's nothing great, but it's very utilitarian. She's gotten down into Fang for the projectile amp and some hit points and stuff. Nothing wrong with that at all. Over into the physical stun stuff. Confirmed kill is always good, especially with a build that is going to be stunning a lot. Extra stun rate, nothing to complain about there. And down into Willow the Strong. Now, she will almost certainly end up with enough dexterity sooner rather than later to get into Path of Swiftness, and probably get that point in Power of Harmony, but it is completely fine where it is. The Zodiac Stone, typically you would want attack enhanced skill effect here. Shout rune effect wouldn't be bad if we were using more than the one shout, but right now we're not, so we'll try to get a better one. At least this one's got hit rate and hit points, even though they're kind of low value. Over into 8, she has gone up into Display of Lightning. This will be taken away once we make her new weapon, because we are going to get lightning on it, so that we can get rid of this Display of Lightning. We'll put these points somewhere else. I don't know where yet, but these will definitely get moved. The other one in here is Rune Counselor. Again, very solid for 3 points. Skill cooldown, skill duration. Nothing wrong with any of that. Her Zodiac Stone. Now, the base of this never matters. Just get a moon, because the base, you're never going to get these until they change these. No one is going to take enough points in trait 8 to ever hit the 4 active Cosmos nodes. It's just not worth it to even bother. I think she might actually have, what she got, 3? No, she's got 2 right now, and that's for 10 points. It would be rough to get enough points to make the actual effect of the stone work. So just get one that's, what is it? I think you can get away with using a sun if you're using one of the things, but she won't be using that. So basically a moon with 3 good mods, and then again, hit points, element resist, that kind of thing, and hit rate. Her last one is the very, very straightforward, always good penetration on whatever your main penetration is. because it gives you not only armor pen, but it gives you max armor pen or element pen for your thing. Obviously, you're always going to want a damage penetration or a physical, whatever your thing is. If you go with the more specific one, you're going to get slightly more, but it's also not really worth taking a lot of effort into it. She's actually got probably a stone that is going to hold her over for a while. 2s and 3s is not bad. Obviously, you want 3s and 4s. Stats on it, she's actually got some good stuff, so that one's okay. Her specialty is where I'm debating on whether things could change. I am going to look around. I don't know this kind of build particularly well, so I might end up changing specialties. But for now, this is actually a pretty good setup, what she's got here. She's got projectile amp, hit point amp, and hit point absorb on hit. That's great. It covers all of your defensive needs in one. Attack speed amplification is not super important. And what I think we might do is use these to move down and get acceleration if we don't get it on our necklace, which I'm not sure what we're doing yet. So these could get moved down to here. I know she's using the convert mana because she was having mana trouble. Depending on what we do with her gear and her lacrima, we might not end up needing convert mana, and then we would drop it. And if we did, there's a bunch of ways we can go. We could go all these points down into the extra projectile count to get the damage boost from this. That's 6% damage amp, because you'd get 2 extra projectiles, as well as the frost bomb would just get extra projectiles, which is good. So we're not really sure. There's might be changes here, but for now, this is a completely solid choice. You could also go down through acceleration into projectile amp. There's nothing wrong with that either. Heck, even going down to just straight damage penetration isn't terrible, but there's way better, different ways. I think it's helmet that has penetration. That's what I was trying to remember on the legendary. So we probably won't need the penetration, but it is something to be considered. Her trait 1 stone is a strength stone. Nothing wrong with that. Flat damage is also okay. She's got some decent stuff on there. Oh, it's status effect dodge chance. Yeah, that's pretty solid. I would stick with that. Number 2, we're a little all over the place here, and I definitely disagree with this, but she likes to have extra movement. She likes to move around, so nothing wrong with that. Dance of Life is pretty solid. Hit points and damage amp. Sharpness, always good for a crit build. It's not a huge amount, but sharpness is sharpness. It's critical rate and damage. And attack speed amplification. Now, again, I don't think she needs this attack speed amplification or this. So what I would be more likely to do is to say, take these 4 points and go up into Band of Agony. Getting that chance to inflict pain is really good, as well as dot rate, crowd control rate, damage against enemies affected by dot, because they're going to be affected by bleed. Pretty solid choice. I think I would go up there. Again, nothing against the attack speed or the movement, but I just feel that this would be the better choice, and we're probably going to move those points on her. And, stone. Damage taken dampening is the stone she wants. You don't want the element or the physical. Obviously, this covers everything, including chaos, which is the hardest one to get dampening for. A hit point on every hit, armor on block, shout rune cast speed. None of those are really helping her. We'll probably re-roll that for better options. I don't know the options for the specialty stones off the top of my head, but that is definitely something we would work. And number 3, now there's a bunch of different ways we could go here. Falcon Hunter is pretty solid. It does decent damage. I would have to see how it does overall to see if it's worth staying in here or maybe considering going to Sailboat instead and looking at the options that are over here. We got some projectile amp. We got some dodge. There's some good things. Another projectile count, which could be something. We might end up coming over here and trying it. I'm going to do some damage testing with her once I get through more of this. Her stone, physical damage amp. Again, the more specialty, the better in this case, because your physical damage as opposed to just getting damage amp. What she's got on here is not good, but we will re-roll that. Outside of that, we've got her stat points, which I can't change, but I feel like she's probably got too much int. I don't think... No, never mind. You probably need int for this. You do need int for that. Okay, so Frost Bomb, you would need a decent amount of int, but I would have exactly the amount, and because extra points in int aren't really going to do anything for this build unless we end up going to a 500 500 500 situation. So what I'll probably do is lower this to give her exactly 313 so that she can use this, and then put the other points into dexterity. That is her Zodiac, and we got a couple other things to look at, and then we're gonna do crazy changes. Her avatar and whatever the other thing is. Her avatars. Katsor is a standard for a physical one. You're going to get extra strength, and you're going to get sensory stimulation to do more damage with the cooldown recovery speed and increased buff effect. Absolutely nothing wrong there. Really solid. Leo for the attack speed and move speed. Again, nothing wrong with this. Very solid choice. Spica is the correct choice, but she's got the wrong option. Now, she probably doesn't know, but the option we want is actually the increased physical damage one. Go down to Spica. The one we'd want is powerful damage. We get physical damage, chance to do maximize and physical damage percent. So that's the one we would go with. Her last one is the correct choice, though, which is Boreal for the enhanced hit points. Really no good options other than that. Getting a few more hit points isn't bad at all. Now, everything else, I think I already briefly talked about, is just a matter of getting some stuff where it needs to be. So if we, like her charms, I'm not going to go through all the charms. These are definitely the 3 best for what she could do. Leo's going to give her physical, it's going to give her dodge, and it's going to give her projectile damage. Solid, very solid. Katsor is going to give her element resist, damage taken dampening, damage amplification, perfect dodge, and if we get it up to 230, another damage amp. Absolutely nothing wrong there. Maul's great. Hit points, physical damage amp, nothing wrong there. Those are basically the only 3 that are worth her taking. So other than getting these numbers correct, which is a little bit of work, I'll take care of that for her. But we're going to do those. We're going to try to do better charms and stuff. I'm going to look through what she's got and maybe come back to this and talk about what I did. The big thing is her charm slot upgrades. I don't think any of them are maxed out. I don't know. I did the Chaos Star. I did that one myself. The other ones definitely need a lot of work and trying to get the right ones. And then things like this, where she doesn't have an all slot, and because she doesn't have an all slot, we're losing a lot of maximization chance. And I think she had a striking... No. So these 4 runes on this side all really need to be significantly worked on so that we can get at least good legendaries on them. The orb itself is decent for what she's using because I made it myself, because I threw it together so she would have a tier 10 star. It's not anything spectacular. It's going to give her Hamal, Katsor, and Leo, and it's got some crit rate and crit damage. It's nothing special, but it was something I threw together so that she would have it. It's the right stuff. It's just not in the right places in the right quantities. Charms are good. I know her masteries are the right place because I made sure just now to check what they were. And I'll use my masteries in here to show that hers are where they are. So she's got this maxed and then some damage here. And the excess point, I think we put it into hit point percent, possibly. It was, yeah, it's hit point percent. We put the extras into there. Very straightforward. The alchemy table is exactly the same as this one. Mana pot all the way down to Spring of Inspiration. Unique, what are they called? Enhanced pots down to able to produce unique grade potions. And then the standard hit point removes bleed and stuff. Extra chance elixir. And then a couple of points over here just to save you a little bit of money. I think that's all of her stuff that we need to talk about. Oh, the offering points. Obviously, her offering points are going to be projectile, so we're going to want Vesper, and then damage on attack, which I think is Akuben. Where is it? Where are you? Nope, it's not Akuben. Projectile damage, and it's damage upon attack. Spica would be her too, so Either one, you put 1 point into either one so that you have at least 1 point into both. Then you max one out, and then you go max the other one out. Then when you're done, if you have done it over the course of 2 seasons, you'll have a few points that you can put into Alyssa for physical. Her Rune Master points, I already think I went through. We're going to redo those and move some stuff out of movement speed into some other places, and I'll talk about that when it is all back put together. Is there anything else that we need to talk about with her build? I don't think there is. Okay, so I'm going to go and start working on her gear and some of the stuff, and then we're going to transfer it over to her. We're going to do a damage test before I make all the changes. We're going to do a damage test after I make all the changes and look at the stats overall. Okay, this is going to be a lot of work. Here we go. Okay, now into the gear we're making for Boog. I do want to quickly pause here and talk about, I'm put a link in the description of the video to explain how it's a much easier way to get extra jewel sockets rather than finding them that way that uses the transfer system. I'm going to put that video out. It'll be out before this one, so you can go and watch that if you don't know how to do that transfer for all of the gear so that I have extra jewel slots on all of the gear that I'm going to be doing. Okay, with that said, we're going to start on her weapon here and hopefully just power through this. Normally, I show the whole process in long, drawn-out form, but because I do want this video to be reasonably watchable and not super long, I'm going to cut away after I explain the steps, and I'm going to come back when I've got the next part done. So the only thing we are going to be doing here is putting a extra authority on. We're going to put on the added lightning damage. Okay, so we're going to put Akuben authority. Obviously, you want it rare. We're going to put on the extra authority, and then we're going to try to get our stuff. So what we are going to be aiming for is additional lightning damage. We're going to get additional physical, flat damage, and weapon damage. This is probably going to be the hardest part of the whole thing. After that, we need to get the suffixes of gear. Critical rate is very important. It's nice and easy to get, though. Weapon attack damage, which is also easy to get. And then there are a bunch of other options, and since this is not necessarily her end game weapon, we're going to take any of the following. Critical damage is good. Physical damage is good. Maximized damage is good. And worst case scenario, things like strength or dex or any of those are also completely acceptable. Okay, so we're going to start with the prefixes, again, because they are going to be the hardest thing to get. We're going to use Alyssa Essences, and we're going to use the additional lightning damage, because if you saw over here, the additional lightning damage is 0.9%. It's the hardest one to get. And we're going to roll that until we get physical damage. And I'm going to do a couple of, I said I was going to cut away, but I'm going to show just a couple of how I do this so that people can see that maybe haven't seen it. So we're going to take additional lightning and hit it. Now, if it has the other option, the one we're looking for, great. If it doesn't, we could continue to try and get it with just more Alyssas. And depending how many Alyssas you have, it'll be easier to get this with Alyssas than to do it the hard way. The hard way is to use one Alyssa and then do a prefix removal and hopefully remove one of the other things. I'm not going to do it this way, though, okay? But this is what you do if you don't have a lot of Alyssas until you get the second one. And then you try to get rid of the thing and try to get the third one. That's the hard way to do it. Since we have the resources to do it, I'm going to do it the easy way, which is use Alyssas until I get two of the things, preferably the additional and the flat physical. Those are the two hardest ones to get. And then I'm going to use Serpens to remove and get the third one. I will show that process. So I'm going to cut away now. I'm just going to use Alyssas to get my two, and then I'm going to come back when I have it. So we got our physical damage and our additional. So now we're going to use Serpens. Now, if you don't have Serpens, what you have to do is use a prefix removal, hope for the best, hope it hits this, and then try to get the other. If you have access to Serpens, if you don't, they are very cheap on the auction house. This is definitely the best way to get this stuff. So we're going to use a Serpens Essence to select the hit rate that we don't want. Okay, we're going to remove it by forcing it to a suffix. So now we have 4 suffixes and 2 prefixes. We're going to use a suffix removal to remove the 4th suffix. It doesn't matter which one because we don't care about the suffixes. Then you're going to use a coin to try and get that back. And then we're going to repeat that process until you get the thing. That's what I'm going to do now. So that took us, what, 4 of those, 3 of those? I'm not sure exactly. But we got our prefixes. So now we want to get our suffixes. Conveniently, we already have 2 of them. What you would be doing is using suffix birth essence, suffix removal essence, and coins to get your suffixes. In this case, we are just going to try to remove this stun rate. And it hit it, and then we're going to hope it gives us crit rate. And it doesn't. That wouldn't have been great. Would have been great, wouldn't it? So now we're going to try to remove. Get it back. And now you have to decide what are the chances that you're going to get each of the things. So 4% chance for maximized. Physical is 1%, probably the lowest. The critical damage is 4, and these 2 are both high. So the attack damage and the gear crit are the least important. So we are going to use suffix birth until we see one of the 3 options that are hard to get and one of the others, and then we will continue. So I'm going to just do a quick... So there's physical. That's great. And we're going to try to remove the others. Again, normally I would try to, if it was the critical or the maximized, because they're higher, I would wait to see a second thing. But because physical is so hard to get, I'm going to try to do it from here, although it probably won't work. So there goes our physical. And now we're going to just go back to using birth until we see if we use it, okay, and we have 1 and 2 open spaces, we're going to coin. If we have the thing we want, something we don't want, and an open space, we're probably not going to waste the coin unless it's one of the hard to get ones. Fire resist, attack damage. Now we have to use a suffix option to remove. Hopefully it hits a thing. If not, we start back at the start. I'm going to do that until I get my 3 suffixes. That's the whole process, using suffix birth, suffix removal, and coins in the most efficient way you can, cycling until we get what we want. So I'm going to do that quickly. Be right back. We got our suffixes, and to be completely fair here, we are going to take this. Normally, I would do a thing where I Vesper and I do other stuff, but the rolls on this are solid. The only thing we really care more that is low in this case is the gear critical rate. Now, I don't have a lot of Vespers, and I do have my own gear to work on, so I am going to just take this as is. The next step would normally be we're going to Vesper until we hit the important values to a high value, which would be the attack damage, the gear critical rate, the flat physical, the attack damage, all those things. The physical and the lightning in this case wouldn't be a huge priority, but these are all double-digit numbers. They're not terrible, and this is not meant to be a super-duper endgame weapon. This is just something that we want to get her moving and doing better with. So we're just going to take these values. Now, the other thing you can do here is Pineapple, which is the rare change essence, to re-roll things like, say, the gear critical rate until it hits a max value like that. And in this case, I would try to roll the gear critical and the attack damage both to max. And since these are very easy to come by and they don't cost a huge amount of money to do, we're probably going to do that. There's a pretty good roll. We're going to take that. So the next step is to Legendary. When it comes to legendaries, the things you want the most are the weapon attack damage flat and the weapon attack damage percent. Percent is much more important, and if we can get it, that would be great. So that's what we're going to try for. I might do a couple of reversions here because this is something that's going to matter. Some of the other stuff I am going to leave incomplete for her to finish, but this one we'll try to get. Hit rate, no, we don't care about that. Not that we don't care about hit rate, but we really want to hit the percent here. Cold damage is prefix. So yes, even though cold damage doesn't matter, we could still hit the attack damage suffix, so we are going to use a thing. We didn't hit it. Upgrade, fire pen. Lightning damage. Fire pen, are you prefix? You are prefix, so we're not going to bother. There's attack damage prefix, or suffix, and 4 hit points on every hit. Nothing wrong with that. Normally, we would try to ancient this. I'm going to leave that for her because I don't have a lot of ancients and she can do it with her stuff. The last thing we can do is the authority modifier in purple at the top there. We almost always, when it comes to weapon that you're using, you're going to go with gear item quality from Sefdar. We're going to try to get 6 on that. Don't fall for that. 5. We can keep it. 6. 3. There we go. 6. So now that we've got that, the only other thing we can do is crafting. Sorry, we can do quality and crafting and jewels, but I'm not going to show the quality or the jewels. So we're going to go quick look at crafting here. And I'm not going to put a ton of resources in, but what we generally want to do, at least for basic stuff, you're going to want the attack damage to roll more attack damage, okay? Or the attack damage to roll flat damage of your type. We're just going to hit the attack damage to hit attack damage, and then we're going to, if I have enough resources to do that. If not, I will probably, yeah, there's a low level one. For her starting out, that's probably fine. It's not great. So I'm going to throw quality on this, and I'm going to throw a white jewel in. She's going to have to get the star jewel herself, and then she can ancient this. But there is her basic weapon done. It is not spectacular, but it will absolutely get her off the ground and get moving. We're going to move on to the next piece. Okay, unfortunately, I don't have a video of me crafting the shoulders. Now, I did have a video of me crafting a shoulder, but after getting the build together and doing some testing, her armor was significantly lower than we wanted. So we went back and redid a shoulder. I wish this was a T35 base, but I didn't have one. And again, I was in a testing phase, and I really wanted to make sure that I got the build functional for her the next morning so she could play. So I threw this together. Obviously, you'd want a T35, but the rest of this I would probably keep the same, or almost all the same. So getting the chaos resist when cold, fire, lightning, and poison are 100 or more. You can do armor amplification. I don't have a particularly high roll here. I'm going to let her re-roll it to a higher value when she gets stuff because I want to give her stuff to work on. The other two prefixes are gear armor and gear armor. These three together, plus a solid base armor, so again, a T35 has much more, completely solves the armor issue. Now, with that said, I did want to get the physical damage suffix, but it was 6 o'clock in the morning when I was doing this, and I was completely beyond tired, so I didn't have the wherewithal. I didn't realize that the physical damage percent wasn't on here, so I was like, yeah, that's good enough, and then moved on. So what you would like to get here is physical damage, chaos resist, and then I took element resist, even though it's a low roll, again, because I was just tired. There is not a lot of good suffixes, and there's not even anything really worth crafting. You could probably do something and get something very minor, some critical damage or something, but it wouldn't be much, and it's probably not worth the effort, so I just took this. More or less, the shoulder is here just for the sake of getting her armor to a very good place. The legendary mods you want, gear armor, absolutely, because we want to get as much armor as we possibly can from this. So gear armor is the prefix. The suffixes, there are a few that are good. I don't remember them off the top of my head. Again, I didn't have a lot of resources and I was really tired, so I just took crowd control dodge chance. I wouldn't take that if you were doing it. The ancient is projectile link rune, I think, would probably be the best one because you get a lot of projectile in here. I'm not sure what I think the suffixes have something to do with attack enhance or damage. There's something with the suffix, which is pretty good. But mostly this is just here as an armor situation. In a perfect world, we'd get her an Afro story and it'd be even better. But for now, this is what we got. Next up, we got Sheild. So we've got an armor dodge shield. You could go with pure armor. You could go with pure dodge. I went with armor dodge. It's not going to make a heck of a lot of difference to her build. We are going to get the Akuben authority onto it so we can get the element, totem element resist, which we're going to craft into something different later. So we're going to put that on. We're going to start probably with the suffixes. Let's take a quick look. Totem. Probably want chaos resist and damage, so that's a 3% on the damage. Also, physical damage would be completely acceptable, but they're mutually exclusive. You can't get both. Prefixes are all 9s. Okay, so we're starting with the suffix, and we're going to use a good old Alyssa, the very few times we use Alyssas, to hit the hardest to get thing, which is either damage or physical damage. Now, the thing you like to check, I didn't actually point it out, physical damage goes to 125%, okay? And if we go to look at damage only goes to 113% because it's a broader thing. So we want to go with the physical damage instead of the damage when you have the option to. So we're going to go to physical damage, hit it, see if it has either of the other two. If it does, you could do it one at a time and hope to get the other two things, which I don't even remember what they were now. What was it? Totem. We need the totem. The totem and then something good. So we'll try to get the totem here, and if we don't, we'll just... If the physical goes away, basically. There's our totem element resist. And it's gone. Block recovery speed is also something that's really nice if you can get it. Because blocks block all damage. But they have a recovery time in between. Getting block recovery speed can make your survival quite a bit better. So if you can happen to hit, that'd be great. No, physical gone. Again, hardest one to get, so we're gonna go back. Bam. Okay, I'm just gonna zip away and come back when it's done. Okay, there we go. We got the stuff we want. So we got physical, the block recovery speed instead of the chaos or whatever is fine, and then our totem. So now we gotta get our suffixes. We're going to want gear, block, expertise, hit point. There's a bunch of options here. So gear, block, expertise is fine. Gear, armor, dodge is gear, armor, dodge, hit rate, hit points. We're basically just trying to hit 3 decent things here. Never mind. We need to hit the dampening. I keep messing up. We want to hit dampening is the most important. Decrease element damage taken is actually dampen damage taken, not element damage. So that's a very important one. We want to hit that, and then 2 of the other ones. In this case, we got block expertise and gear block, so we are going to try to just remove and hope for the best, and it hit it. And of course, it didn't give it to us because that'd be way too easy. Hit rate. Again, at this point, if I remove any of them and get the dampen, we'd be happy. Okay, I'm going to zip away. Be right back. So we got our prefixes. We went through a bunch of different iterations. I'd like to hit the gear block expertise, but we didn't hit it, and it's easy to supplement that in your Rune Master, so we're not going to worry about it. Gear armor dodge, dampen damage taken. Again, the values here are all pretty good, except for the one that we need to be higher, which is totem, because totem, again, is going to be crafted. We want it like a 12 or a 13. We are going to Vesper and hopefully hit some decent values here. The dampen damage taken is low. Okay, that's not bad. Again, for a basic bare bones, get us up off the ground setup, that is solid. So, we're going to pineapple to make sure our values are rolled well. The 11.9 out of 12, that's nearly perfect. Gear armor dodge is low percent-wise, but also we hit both, so I'm not too worried about it. Physical is pretty good. You know what? We're just going to take that. So now we're going to slap a legendary on it. The thing with Sheild, I should have checked. The thing with Sheild is there's not a lot of good suffixes when it comes right down to it. Damage amp is the only one that you can hit that's really good. I guess gear, block, expertise, and recovery speed aren't the worst. Hit point, element, resist, gear, armor, dodge are standard prefixes. So we're going to hopefully hit a decent something here. Stagger recovery speed is not block recovery speed. We don't care about stagger. Damage amp, and come on, be really cool. Enhanced skill rune level. That couldn't be better. I forgot about enhanced skill rune level. That's literally perfect. Okay, so we've got those. We want to hit our authority. And what is authority? If I remember correctly, there's not much her authority. So we'll probably end up going with gear item quality just to get a little more defense out of this. Don't think there's anything else that stands out. Block expertise is okay, but it's not very much. So we're just going to get any of the ones with gear item quality. And get our 6% here. Eventually. Or not. That's cool too. There we go. So, quality. I have to actually do quality. Throw some jewels on this thing. And again, she can do legendary and stuff later. And we do want to, I don't have the stuff on me, to do our craft, where we're going to craft our totem into skill rune effect. Again, we want like a 13 would be really nice. And then, same as the other ones, if we hit any of these other things and it doesn't completely screw it up, that's good enough for now. Okay, that's it for what I'm going to do right now. When I come back, you're going to see me in different clothes, but we're going to continue. Okay, let's see if we can blaze through this necklace here. Now, we are going to be doing something using Serpens, and if you don't have access to Serpens, I'm going to show you what I would do in its place. So first, we're going to put on the Capri Authority, okay? And we're going to try to get this here. Chance to gain damage amplification on hit, okay? So we're going to put that Authority on. We're going to use our Alyssa to grab that. And the other thing we'd like to hit, we just hit, is skill to cooldown recovery speed. So that there. Then we are going to change the authority, okay, by going into a legendary. We're going to change the authority to the Miracetti, and then we're going to reversion. Now we have the Miracetti authority on, and we're going to use a Serpens essence to remove the strength, like we did in the previous thing. We're going to make it a prefix, then we're going to remove a prefix, and then we're going to hit our coin to try and hit this. It is not a particularly great chance to hit this. We might try it a few times, and if I don't get it right now, I'm just going to cut away, and we're just going to come back when I have it. Hopefully, we can get lucky here, though. Bam. Bam. Nope. Oh. So, now we've run into the problem that happens occasionally, which is this has no options to turn into for prefix because it is a tier 8 and there are no currently available tier 8 options. You have a couple of things you can do here. One, you can hit a Vesper so that it is a 13 or it's just not an 8, and then you can continue on, or you could try to remove it or whatever. Generally, I just throw a Vesper at it because it makes my life easier. So we're going to select the minion, get it out of there. I'm going to go through this process. If we get it, I'm going to come right back. And if we don't get it, I'm going to go away. I'm going to do stuff. And then I'm going to come right back. It's not going to make any difference to you. I don't know why I'm talking about it. Okay, let's work on her necklace. Now, somehow I accidentally deleted the previous day's start of this necklace. So I'm just going to super quickly walk through the process that I used to get to where we are. And then we're going to continue from there. So we started with a Capri base. Okay, we got the Capri damage amp for 10% chance to gain damage amp for on hit for 3 seconds, and the skill rune cooldown. And we legendaried, changed the authority, and used Serpens essences to remove the third suffix, make it a prefix, and then remove a prefix and use a coin to get our damage amp. I wish I had not lost that footage. Unfortunately, I did. So there's what we have currently. Now we're going to do another authority change, I believe, to get a prefix. No, I am wrong. We're not. We aren't going to do that because the option we do have is a chance to get pulverize on hit. But it is such an impossibly low chance that I don't feel it's worth it on a piece of gear that is probably not going to be her end game piece, especially when getting the physical damage that we want on here is already going to be hard enough. So we're going to just stick with the suffixes we have and try to get her prefixes. So again, the stuff we want, the primary thing is the physical damage flat. Alternatively, if we hit the physical damage percent, that's not bad. And then if we hit point or hit point percent, any of those would be okay. But ideally, we'd like to hit these two. So this might take a few bajillion rolls. So I'm not sure how I'm going to go about doing this. And I'm not going to show the whole thing because I don't want to make this super long. But we'll do a few here. So I'm just going to use Birth Essence to re-roll until hopefully we hit the flat physical, which is going to be a very low chance to hit. But if it does, then I will use removal to hopefully get rid of the things we don't want and end up with something again. Hit rate, hit points, flat hit points, or the physical damage. But the flat physical is the biggest thing. So I'm going to get to that real quick. Be right back. I did want to pop back in before I get really going on this. There are two things that if you were trying to do this step, you do not want to see, which is element damage, because it is mutually exclusive with physical damage, or any of the other flat damages, because those are also mutually exclusive with the one you want. So in this case, there's no real point in me continuing because I have element damage already, so I should just hit it again and see if we get it. And then if we get one of the fire, lightning, poison, any of those others, which I've done multiple times at this point, you don't want to continue coining on that because you're just going to waste materials. Okay, significantly less rolls than I expected to take, but there we go. We've got our flat physical, we've got our percent physical, and we've got hit rate, which is completely acceptable as well. Hit points, I think, would have been preferred for her, but it's so hard to get these two together that it's probably not worth the effort. So next step, as with all the others, is looking at the pineapple. We got to look at pineapple. No, Vesper. I'm going to do this right one of these times. We're going to Vesper the thing and try to get some stuff. Flat physical is very important. The two of these are very important. And ideally, the skill room recovery speed. The physical percent and the hit rate are not nearly as important as the others. So we're going to Vesper and hopefully get some decent rolls here fairly quickly. Okay, that looks pretty solid. 14, 14, 14, 14. 10 on this, which isn't as great as we'd like, but overall, it's very solid. Now we are going to pineapple to make sure that we get our flat physical and stuff as good as we can. That one's pretty good. Hit rate's pretty good. That's not bad. 10.6. And wow, that's actually really good. We're going to take that as is. Beautiful. So now we can legendary. And obviously, we're going to take a look at what our options are. Hit point, attack speed, physical damage for prefix, stat, element resist, critical rate, critical damage. Basically, anything except mana regen on the suffix would be okay. Attack speed, mana regen. You know what? We're going to take that, again, because I don't want to waste a ton of resources on temporary gear. But we got the attack speed. If it was just the mana regen, we would re-roll, but the attack speed is solid. And since the weapon we're giving her is slower than what she's got, having that extra attack speed is good. So now we've got Authority Essence. We got to figure out what we're going to do for the Authority. And I'm pretty confident necklaces would just get a percent damage. In this case, we would want a percent physical damage because it'll be higher than the regular damage. I'm pretty sure. We should always check. Or we could do critical rate. Not a lot of critical rate. We should probably just go with the damage. Oh, never mind. In this case, and in a very different thing, normally a solid one like that is different. But we're going to take the damage, try to get as close as we can to 30. No, we can do better. It's only 10%, but I'm sure we can do better. What is this? There we go. Perfect roll. Now, I've already got jewels in this, except for the star jewel. She's going to have to do that on her own. We don't need to worry about quality or anything. We will go take a look at possible crafting. I don't know off the top of my head if there's any particularly good things. Standard thing is to just get more of a thing you want. So like physical damage, We're going to look through and see if there are any that stand out as something really strong. So we could do skill rune cooldown recovery speed into skill rune effect. It's not a ton of skill rune effect, so I'll probably just leave that as is. Sharpness, overpower, they're all plus. So I do think we're just going to go with the extra flat physical here, and hopefully we can get it fairly quickly. And if we can't, I don't know why I'm putting this part in. I always do this, but you know what happens at this point. I'm going to either hit it or I'm not. I'm not going to do any high crafting for her because I want her to do those things on her own. And it looks like I'm going to run out. Oh, no, never mind. We're going to... Oh, never mind. That can't because I got rid of the... I thought it was a plus, not a thing. Okay, so I'll come back and redo this a bit. Or maybe I will just leave that for her there. But that's the necklace. It's fairly costly in terms of getting the suffixes because you have to use serpens. I think I ended up having to use 12 or 13 to get the second authority, but it's not bad. Okay, we've got 3 more pieces to work on: helmet, chest, and boots. Let's get to it. Moving on to her helmet. Helmet is pretty much always going to be more or less the same stuff. You're going to get enhanced skill cooldown, enhanced skill effect, enhanced skill duration, and then critical damage, which are going to turn into either physical or element damage amplification, and then some decent stuff for the other 2 prefixes. So in this case, we are going to start with the suffixes. We're going to use an authority to get the Capri, and then we are going to roll the suffixes until we get 2 things. We want the enhanced skill rune effect and critical damage. Now, they're not too hard to get. Normally, I would say use Alyssa's, but in this case, I would just put both of these on, hit 1, let it roll. If it hits one of the 2, which it will because it'll stop on one of the 2, we're going to hit the other. If it doesn't hit 2 at that point, we're going to repeat, and we're going to wash, rinse, repeat until we get our 2. I'm going to do that quick, and then I'm going to talk about the next step. Okay, we've got our enhanced skill rune effect and our critical damage. Now we are going to change the authority to... Hold on. I forgot which one it was. It is Aquila. Okay. Then we are going to use serpens to get this. I'm just going to show the steps quick. So legendary. Change the authority to Aquila. Reversion. And then we're going to use a Serpens Essence to remove the 3rd suffix that we don't want, which in this case is stagger recovery speed. It's going to go to a prefix. We're going to remove a prefix, and then we are going to use a coin to hopefully try and get our thing. I'm going to do that until I get it. If I run out of Serpens, I will have to come back. Okay, we've got our attack enhanced skill rune duration. It cost us like way more Serpens than it normally does. Cost me probably 30 serpens total. Normally it doesn't take that many. I feel like I had a bad run of luck. Next step is to legendary. Change the authority to Akuben. And reversion. And now we're going to get our prefixes. Now our prefix that matters the most here is enhanced skill rune cooldown recovery speed. And then, depending on what we need for her, we'd like to get gear armor dodge %, hit point %, hit point, hit rate. There's quite a few good things here, but this one is the most important one. So I'm going to hop around, get that quick, and come right back. Okay, we got our prefixes, armor dodge %, our enhanced skill rune cool speed, and then instead of hit points, I ended up getting dexterity, which is something she wants anyway, so that's not a bad roll. We're going to take it. Obviously, next we're going to Vesper and try to get the things we want up to high value. So the most important ones on here, the enhanced skill rune cooldown recovery speed, enhanced skill rune effect, attack enhanced skill rune duration, and critical damage, which is going to get re-rolled, but we want it to try to get to 13. Hopefully we can get some good rolls here. Or we could have some really bad luck too. You know how it is sometimes. Okay, 14, 14, 14, 12, 9, 9. You know what? Solid enough for her, so we're going to take that. Next is Pineapple. We want to make sure these hit the high values. That's pretty close to max. That is max, and that's pretty close to max, so we're going to take it. Next, legendary, and the prefix suffix are pretty much going to be the same as the others. Hit point, element resist, gear armor, and then dampen resource cost, damage, or stat percent. Actually, or hit rate. So there's a lot of options here. Hopefully we can get a good one fairly quickly. There's hit rate and immune to burn. No thank you. Gear armor dodge and damage reflect taken decrease. No, I don't know. Just damage. You know what? Good enough for her. Again, she won't be able to ancient these right away. So she will have the option to come back and legendary reversion these on her own. I will show her how to do that. Next step, we got to make sure we get the prefix, or the authority modifier, not prefix, that we want. In this case, there are a couple of different good ones. The stat one, I'm pretty sure, hold on. It's just stat or item quality. Or you can go with a particular thing. Now, if you're going to take stat or dexterity or strength, unless you already are specifically completely set over into one or the other, it's better to go for stat, because dexterity will go to 15, but this will give you a total of 18 stats. So that's what we're going to go with. If you really needed the armor dodge, you could go with the gear item quality. But in this case, we just want stat. I already had 5, but we can do better. There's 6. Next, we have to go check for the crafting. Now, we already know on this one, we are going to want to craft the critical damage into physical damage amplification. So hopefully we have enough to get that for her. Element damage amp. Of course it is. Element damage amp again. It knows. It absolutely knows. Another element damage amp. Come on, really? Physical damage amp. It's pretty low, but again, these are just to get her functional. So there's our helmet done. All we have left is chest piece. So last piece of her gear is the chest piece. Now we're going to be doing 4 prefixes on this, which means we're going to use a technique, if you haven't seen, using serpens to give herself a 50-50 chance at the 4th prefix. Now, this isn't particularly hard, and it's definitely worth doing on pieces like this. It's not always worth having 4 prefixes or 4 suffixes. In some situations, it can be really good. In this case, we're going to go for it. So what we're going to get for our prefixes is gear dodge rate percent, so that we can get our dodge rate on the armor nice and high. We're going to get hit point percent, because it rolls a really high value. We're also going to do 2 different authority prefixes. The one being Spica for dampen damage taken, and the other one is going to be Boreal for attack damage skill rune level up to 3. When it comes to our suffix, there are 2 different ways we can go. In this case, I'm going to be taking the hit point amplification. You can do an insane, ridiculous one. I have a video on my channel about my chest piece from last season, which was an absolute nightmare to make. And I'm not going to talk about that here because it's really hard to do the thing. So we're just going to be going with 1 extra authority on the suffix. So 3 suffix, or 3 authorities total. And the process isn't particularly difficult as long as you have access to some serpents. So we're going to start by getting either or. It doesn't really matter because they have the same chance. Okay, so the Boreal attack damage skill rune level is 4.5%, and the Spica dampen damage is 4.5%. So it doesn't matter which one we start with. For whatever reason, I typically like to start with the Spica. I don't know why, I just do. So we're going to take Spica, throw the authority on, and then we're going to roll our prefixes. So again, hit point percent, dodge rate percent, and dampen damage taken. Since they are all the same percent, we're just going to set it to 2. We're going to hit the button until it gives us the 2, and then we're going to coin to get the 3rd, and we're going to just repeat that process until we get the 3 prefixes. So be right back. Okay, so now we have our 3 prefixes that we want: the gear, dodge rate, hit point, and dampening. Now, to get the next one, we're going to have to roll suffixes until we get a tier 8. Now, doesn't really matter to you. Actually, no, I will explain fully why a tier 8 matters. So, we're going to use a Serpents, and there are things that you can only get that are tier 8. Actually, hold on. We need to change the authority first. I'm going to do that before I forget. So we're going to change the authority to the other authority for prefix, which is the Boreal. So we're going to legendary, change it to Boreal. I know I'm speeding through this, but I don't want to make this video super long. All my other videos are super long. You can find one there. So now that we've got the other authority, we want a tier 8. And there should be only 1, potentially 2, that are 8. So what we do is we look through... No, so there's only 1. The only suffix that can go to tier 8 is gear stat requirement. Okay, so that's right there. And the reason we need an 8 is authority mods can roll lower values than other mods. So if we put it to tier 8 and then we use a Serpens, it's only going to choose from those 2 options. Okay, I'm going to get the tier 8. I'll be right back. Now, for a second, I want to pop in here. I talked about that there's 2 different ways you can go on this thing, and one of the ways you can go for suffix is getting reflect damage, and you can roll that into damage amplification. Again, in this case, we are going to go with the hit points because she likes to have more hit points when we get to the suffixes, but that is the other option. And we are back. You would not believe how many attempts it took me to get a tier 8 instead of a tier 14. But here we are. So now you do have to make sure every slot is filled. And now that the authority is changed, if we use a Serpens and take this, it'll have only the 2 authority options. That's why we need the tier 8. So we have a 50-50 shot to hit attack damage skill rune level or armor damage decrease limit. We want attack damage rune level, so we're going to cross our fingers here. 50-50 shot. If I mess up, I can try to remove it. And if I hit it, we move on to the next step. I hit the thing. Awesome. We can move on to the next step. So now we're going to legendary again. We're going to change the authority to Hamal. First, yep, Hamal. Yep, hit point amp suffix. Okay. And reversion. And now we're going to, because we've used... Yeah. Serpens rule, because we've done a Serpens, if we try to use the suffix birth essence, it's going to clear it. So don't do that. You're just going to use suffix option removal, okay? And we're going to remove both, and then we're going to try to hit the hit point amp, and then we're going to see what the second one is. If it doesn't hit point amp, I'm immediately going to use... Actually, no, never mind. I'm going to keep that because chaos is the one I actually want. Remove. If it hits the thing, we're going to remove again because we care about the hit point amp. Hit point regen, immediately remove. And then I'm going to wash, rinse, repeat with that until I get the hit point amplification and something I want. Hit rate, chaos resist, whatever. Now, that's another one that I always forget is on here. Since we're using Hamal anyway, there is a chance to get 20% chance to recover 1.9% of max hit points when hit, which is not a terrible thing in terms of survivability. If we don't really need the chaos resist, this is also going to be a good one. So we are going to try to remove and hit point. No, okay. So we're going to keep going. Okay, so we got hit rate. We're going to take it. Next step is Vespering. Now, it's important to note when you're Vespering this particular thing that the attack damage skill rune level can only go to 10. So don't keep Vespering trying to get it higher because you can only get to 10 and get a +3. Obviously, the hit point amplification is the other one that we need to pay attention to because it can only go to 12. So we want ideally 12 or 10 and 12, and then damage taken dampening either 13 or 14. The others, as long as they hit decent, will be okay. So we got 10 on the, or 6, sorry. I was looking at the wrong one. 10, 12. Ideal. There's 10, 12. Only 11 on the damage taken dampening. Those are okay. Yeah, we're going to take that. Again, I don't want to waste a huge amount of resources, and we're already like 40 million gold into this. So we're going to take that. Obviously, next is Pineapple. Make sure we get the values as high as we can. This won't roll. This can only go by 1%. So the damage taken dampening is the only one we really care about. After that, the hit point and the gear dodge. We're going to just roll this until it gets close to 13, and then take a look at the others. That's just about bottom of the barrel. We won't take that. Luckily, this doesn't cost much money, and these are very plentiful. 230, 32, no. I don't know why I'm keeping this rolls in when normally I don't, but I am. So here we go. This is the process. 230. 14%, potentially more. Now we're just going to take that. That's pretty good. Okay. Next is the dreaded legendary. As with all of the armor pieces, hit point, element resist, dodge rate, any of those three, with suffixes. Now, this is one where you can actually get quite a bit. You can get melee attack rune level, bow skill level, sentry level. Unfortunately, none of those are going to help her. I think the only one that would really help is the melee attack skill rune level, because her hammer actually counts as melee and projectile. So if we hit, that'd be cool. But more than likely, the thing we would want on there is the hit point amplification. So let's see what we can get. Hit point amp and hit points. That's absolutely gorgeous. We'll take it. Last thing is the authority. We want damage taken dampening, which I don't remember. Is that speaking? Hi, Statler. You're very helpful. You're very helpful, yes. Dampen damage taken from Sefdar. It's only 2.5% at max, but that's still 2.5 damage dampening that you can't get from many places, and it's a good spot to get it. So there's a 2.3. That's going to be good enough. I already threw the quality on it. I could definitely do better with the quality, but honestly, this is a really solid piece. Last thing we always check is crafting. We'll see what we've got for crafting options. Now, typically I go with something like I take the attack rune level and I try to get sharpness or something. Not a bad option, but let's take a look at what else we've got here. More gear. Dodge isn't terrible. Hit points. Hit rate. We could do hit rate into either damage or critical damage. Damage would probably be better, as well as attack speed, because I think at this point her hit rate is going to be very high. We might as well try to get some more damage out of this rather than just stick with it as is. Yeah. Looking for just something damage. There's a low critical damage. Low critical damage. I can only go up to 9 though. But there is her chest piece. So we have all of her pieces done that we're going to give her anyway. So we've got weapon, shield, helmet, shoulder, chest piece, boots, and necklace. I do want to go redo the thing on the weapon, so I am crafting up some weapon things right now to go run. And I'm going to change that over. Then we're going to throw all that gear over to her character. I'm going to do some final checks on it and some testing. And then I'm going to have her run a map so that you guys can see. I'm going to do a damage test and have her run a map so you guys can see the differences before and after. Okay, let's talk about her boots. Now, there's two suffixes that we would like to get, and if you use an armor barrier base, now there are better ones, there's T35s, but the things that we can get on the T35s aren't particularly important to her, so we're not going to worry about trying to get a particularly good base, because I happen to have a red-black, and it's not going to make that much of a difference. These type of boots, armor barrier, come with totem effect range, which we can turn into skill rune effect. The other two suffixes we would normally try to get, give me 1 second, I never remember which one it is. One of them is Spica with dampened damage taken. Obviously, if we need damage dampening, this would be a good place to get it. But since she's already using a shield and she's getting damage dampening on her chest piece as well as other places, we're not going to worry about getting that on here because I don't have a ton of resources to waste on her gear, but I do want her to get something good. So instead, what we are going to get is the... I'm so bad at looking these things up. Attack Enhance Skill Rune Effect. So our suffixes are going to be Attack Enhance Skill Rune Effect, Totem Effect Range, and then really we hit rate or Chaos Resist, but these two, oh no, it's pretty good chance we can get those without too much effort. Now, normally what I would do is get these two, and then I would use Sir Pens to get the third thing, the dampened damage taken. But in this case, because I don't have a lot of Sir Pens and I have already need a bunch for her other gear and I gotta go farm more, we're just gonna take these two and then, again, hit rate or chaos resist. The prefixes do have some good things that we could use for authority, one of them being strike damage. The reason we probably won't bother trying for the strike damage is because it is such an impossibly low chance to hit it using prefix rolls that unless you're starting with prefixes, it's just too difficult to hit. And because, again, this isn't a super duper end game piece necessarily for her, we'd like to just keep the cost down. So we're just going to take movement speed and then hit rate, hit point, or gear armor, whatever we get aside from the movement speed. And the movement speed is so easy to get, it's not going to be too bad. So we're going to start by looking which one of these suffixes is the hardest to get, which is none of them. So I'm just going to set these two on 1. I'm going to roll it until it hits 1, and then I'm going to coin until I get the other one, and then we're going to try to get the third. And yeah, be right back. Suffixes done, on to prefixes. Now, we're not going to change the authority because there is nothing in particular that we want. Again, the strike damage is very difficult to get. So we're going to be using prefix option birth essence and prefix removals to get what we do want. Movement speed is obviously something that we very much want on here, unless you are going to try and do the forced ancient where you can get 1000 move speed and damage amp. But if you're going to do that, you need a lot of ancients to make it work. We don't have that, so we're going to be going with move speed. And then again, hit rate would be nice, hit point would be nice, and then either of these would be okay. Pretty much anything else isn't going to be something we want. Shouldn't take me too long to get. Be right back. And there we go. We got move speed, we got hit rate, we got hit points. Now at this point we Vesper, but honestly, this is pretty good. How much of a difference in the move speed is there is really the only thing we really care about. So she's at 47, could go up to 53. That's only 6% at absolute best. And the rest of it looks pretty good. Again, we're not trying to make her super perfect endgame gear. We're just trying to get her going. The totem will audit, it's 13, so we can get the highest roll for that. Everything else looks pretty good, so we're just going to take that. Now we've got Pineapple. So we're going to re-roll the move speed to try and get 48. The attack enhanced skill rune effect to try and get 33. Until we get 33, and then look at the 33, 46. Luckily, there's not a huge roll range here, so it won't take us long to get what we're looking for. 33, 46 again. I know it's only 2% move speed, but she likes going fast, so we want to try and make sure she's speedy. 33.48, that's pretty good. Hit points are on the high end. Hit rate is on the high end. Okay, good enough. Now we have Legendary. Hit point, element resist, gear armor, barrier are the pretty standard stuff. These immune to stun, freeze, and bind aren't terrible. However, again, you can always get your immunities removed, so we would much rather hit something like hit point. For the suffixes, honestly, there's not anything particularly good aside from maybe the dodges. So really, we just want to hit the prefix. Perfect attack dodge. Gear armor barrier. Element resist. Not the worst thing in the world, and reflect damage taken decrease. It's not going to stop you from dying to damage reflect, but it isn't terrible. Now, the ancient, or the, oh my god, the authority modifier, we can go with a couple of different things. Resource cost reduction is something that we would typically go with if we're having mana trouble. I don't think we are in this case, so we're probably just going to go with stat. It is not a massive thing. It's only 6 points, but that's 18 total stats, because you get 6 of each. And depending on how far we take this, those extra stats are going to be helpful. Eventually we'll hit it. Eventually. Oh my gosh. Come on. There we go. 6 stats. I am going to throw some jewels in this. I am going to quality it. Last thing we always check is if there's anything besides the craft that we're going to get, which is the totem effect range. And we're going to turn that into skill rune effect. And we're going to see if there's anything high craft, but I don't think there's anything super important for her. So we're just going to try to get the skill rune effect here. I did go back and do the skill rune effect on the other pieces. There we go. That's a not bad for a start. I did go back and do... I didn't get the weapon done. I did get the shield done, and I got the shoulder done. Again, not super high rolls. And I ran out on the necklace for something for the extra physical on there. Okay, we've got the helmet, which I need serpents, the chest, which I need serpents. So I guess I'm going to go farm serpents. We thought we were done crafting for her, but it turns out we're not. She happened to get a lacrima, that it has a two-handed weapon and a necklace that are rare, and that's pretty solid, so we're going to do a piece for both of those for her. Now, necklace, the base doesn't matter because it's going in the lacrima. Jeez, don't fall off the desk, Bruno. So we just make sure it's tradable, and we're going to hop in. And we could do something very similar to what we did with the one that she's going to wear. But I'm not 100% sure that these are stackable. Now, I'm pretty sure they are. But because I am not 100% sure about it, I don't want to necessarily waste a bunch of resources to get the two suffixes. So what I think we're going to do is try to get her that Hamal pulverize on hit prefix, and then worry about getting just one of the suffixes instead. Because this will give her a chance to get pulverize, which is damage against bleeding enemies. Every enemy she hits is going to be bleeding, and it's, I think, 10% damage amp. So that's pretty damn good overall. And then later on, if she gets pulverize, extra effect from things, she'll get that from there. So, same process as the regular stuff, but we're going to not be able to make it legendary, and jewels and quality don't matter. So that's one of the things. So we're going to get Hamal and get our pulverize on hit. And we're going to do that with Alyssa Essence. So we're going to do the pulverize on hit and do that until we see physical damage. And as much as I would like to get all three prefixes, again, this is just basic get her up and functioning at high level. So we're just going to try to hit the one. We're going to do the Alyssa for the chance to gain pulverize. And if we hit the flat physical, we're going to call it there, no matter what the third thing is, as long as it's not completely terrible. So let me get that done quick. I'll be right back. So after a few dozen Alyssas, this is the best I've got so far, and I'm just going to take it. The odds of us hitting the flat physical and then getting something halfway decent with it is going to cost a lot. And again, I'm starting to run low on gold, working on stuff for her, so we're just going to move on. Now, for the suffix, we are going to add the chance to get amp thing. Obviously, it'd be great if we could get, if it stacks, and if it doesn't stack, it's not a big deal, I don't think. So we're going to legendary, and we're going to change the authority. And now, at the same time, we're also going to do something else, which is we're going to get the authority modifier we want. Since we're changing it to legendary anyway, we can change that authority modifier now so we can have the one we want without having to worry about changing it again later. So we're going to do the Capri, and we're going to try to get physical damage percent here. It is not a huge difference, but it is something. Now we're going to reversion. Now we're going to try to get our suffixes. Again, ideally, we want to hit this. It's a fairly low chance, but if we could hit that, and then, again, the skill rune cooldown recovery, the third option I'm not really too worried about, but if we can hit these two, that'd be really great. So I'm going to be using suffix options, or suffix birth options and suffix removal options for it, and hopefully we can hit it fairly quickly here, and I'll be right back. So after a little bit of trying, I can't seem to get a third option that is really good. So we are just going to take what we've got here. Now, I could re-roll this. I'm not going to because honestly, the stats on it are pretty solid. This here is good. This is the only one that I feel like I wish I could get higher, but I don't want to waste a bunch of Vespers on this. So there is her necklace. Again, this is all the stuff we're going to get. We won't get the critical damage from the base. Now we got to do a two-handed weapon. Okay, for real this time, last piece of gear. Now, there are a million things we could get her on a two-handed weapon that are going to be really good. So, obviously, physical damage amplification prefix is going to be very solid. 19% at max. We could try to get multiple authorities, but they are very hard to hit. So it's likely that we'll take a single authority for the prefix and then see what we can get for the suffix. So we'll do the physical damage amp, flat physical damage, and then one of these three. Whoops, one of these three. Or is it four? There's a four. Affected by dot, affected by debuff. So they're all relatively the same max damage, and they're all very solid to hit. Also, if we happen to hit weapon attack damage, that's not the worst thing in the world. Itself doesn't go into the lacrima, but it can re-roll in terms of crafting into flat physical, which is very strong. So that's, if we hit that as our third thing, that wouldn't be too bad. For our suffix, I haven't actually even looked, so let's take a quick look here together. We want to find something, obviously, that will do something meaningful for her if we're going to bother doing two. Bleed damage amplification might be okay, because she is doing bleed damage amp for the next attack upon using a movement. That's 30 amp, that could be okay. Damage against enemies. Damage amp against enemies, hit points, or... Okay, so we'll probably take that as our one of our suffixes. Because that doesn't look too bad. Yeah, so that's what we'll do. We'll do Hamal. And then our two other suffixes, we'll take maximize damage or critical damage. Oh, wait, critical damage isn't on there? Critical damage is not on there. So we'll take maximize damage. I could have sworn critical was on there. Is it not? Yeah, it is right there. So critical, physical, or maximized, and then the third thing. This one could be a little costly. I hope I have enough gold to get it done. So we're going to start by getting the physical damage amp right off the top, and hopefully getting that and the flat physical. So we're going to put it on, and we're going to be using Alyssa's here again to take the hardest to get one, which is the physical damage amp, and then hitting it until we see two decent mods, and we'll go from there. That was absolutely gorgeous. It was like 2 attempts, and we got 3 that are great. So we're going to take that. We're going to change the authority, so we're going to have the legendary. And then we're going to change the authority. I already forgot what it was. Give me a second. I got to figure out what that was. Okay, I checked. It's Hamal. I should write these things down, you'd think. Now, the other thing we could do here is try to get a authority effect. Unfortunately, with Hamal, the only one we can get is damage. Now, obviously, we'd like to get something better than that, but we are just going to take the damage because I don't want to waste a bunch of resources doing reversions and stuff. So we're just going to get Hamal, and then we're going to try to get this damage as the authority mod. There we go. Good enough for now. Reversion, and using suffix birth options to get our, hopefully, our damage amp and 2 other good things. I'm going to see how we are doing as we progress again, because I'm fairly low on gold and I don't want to waste all of it. But we're going to try to get 3 good mods here, and then we'll worry about Vespering and stuff. Ooh, okay. That's really good. We're super happy about getting the physical. It was a very low chance we would get that. Obviously, the Chaos Resist isn't the best thing in the world, but it's definitely not bad. So now we're going to take a quick look at Vespers and such and see if there's anything we really want to hit. Obviously, the physical damage and the physical damage amp we would like to hit very high because we can get a very high value. And the physical damage. Now, we have pretty good rolls here, but this could go way, way higher. So I think we're going to throw a few Vespers at it, and we're going to get a really good one right off the bat. So then we're going to take that. Very happy with that. We're going to Pineapple to make sure we can get things where we want. So we want the physical damage amp as close as we can to 19. Let's go in the high 18s, 18.6. decent physical, pretty high there, pretty good there, perfect there, and nearly perfect on the Chaos Rays. Beautiful. So now we have to do crafting on these two because that is something that transfers over, and we will probably attempt to do a high craft as well since it is something that we can't come back and do. You know what? I'm just going to do those off camera, and I'll come back and show you the results of those two. Okay, finally the last two pieces are done. I got the physical damage for the thing, and then I hit attack speed. I did lose some of the amp against enemies at hit points or 40% hit points or more, but I feel like this attack speed is going to be necessary with a much slower weapon, so this probably works out to a net positive. The necklace, we got 19% hit point from our lightning resist, which wasn't doing much for us anyway, and the high craft turned some of the hit points into movement speed, which isn't a huge problem for her because she likes to move fast anyway. So that's all of the gear done for her character, including her lacrima. Now I'm going to transfer everything over to her and get the whole thing together. And again, I'm going to do a damage test before I put anything on. I'm going to do a damage test after I put everything on, including making changes to her Runeboard and her charms and other things, and optimizing it before and after. And I'm going to run a map before and after, and we can look at the differences. Okay, so here is a damage test with Boogs's current setup. I apologize for the audio quality. I'm recording from her laptop. So all her gear that she had on previously and her lacrima, nothing else new. We haven't changed anything yet. So here we go with a damage test. Okay, so there is our base damage test. That is a new record. 2.1 billion damage. There's our stuff. We're gonna come back to Falcon Hunter and see if I can get more from other sources. But there's our first test. Okay, now for a quick playthrough. We are going to do a plus 15 map, normal mode. We're going to do straw because I feel it's the fastest one. And we're just going to run through as per normal and see what her build feels like at plus 15. I apologize for the bad video quality and the bad audio quality during this section. Also, I'm not sure why the sound is not working, but it is not. We're going to do a fairly full clear here in terms of killing everything, just to really showcase the difference that I assume will happen when we finish this up. Okay, so 3 minutes 13 seconds. No real danger to ourselves, but obviously we aren't blazing through. Okay, last thing I want to go through here before we make the change is her stats overall. So she's got 17,500 health when she's buffed. Her attacks, hold on, we won't go by that. Her attack hit rate is 25,000. Her crit rate is
525.3 with about 500 attack critical damage, 20% triple max chance on her skill. She's not quite cast or attack speed capped. 42% armor penetration. And if we look at her defensive stats, 81,000 armor. Resistance is all in the 200s. Chaos Res a little bit low at 165, dampening all 51. 99,000 dodge and 91 block expertise. And this is all at monster level 170. Again, here's her stuff. Here's her current gear. Okay, let's make the change. One thing I did forget, I've already made one change, so I know there's a bit of a difference here, but I wanted to show the difference because we're going to be gaining so much stuff for marksman. So previously, I think it was about 230%. I wish I could go back and check, but 230% projectile damage amp and 4 pierce count. And after the change, I'm going to come back and show this again.
Okay, so previously we did a plus 15 normal, and we're going to do a plus 25 hard with the new setup and see how much better this is. It is much better. Also, I keep hitting the wrong buttons. I just, in my previous, I said that I said the wrong buttons, and then I'm still hitting the wrong buttons. Because our buttons are in different places. Why would you put the buttons in different places? And there's that. Okay, final damage test of the build with all the current changes. Here we go. 3, 2, 1, go! And there you have it. The final, at least current final version of the build. I'm still going to be working on it. We're still going to be making changes. There's still a lot of things we can do to improve the build. She doesn't have star jewels yet. She doesn't have a soul. She doesn't have abyss stones. And now that we're using Blade of Death, the abyss stone we're going to be trying to get for distortion is for the dagger that works with Blade of Death, the Transcendent Hamal's Wreath, because it's going to give us additional stuff with Blade of Death, and so it's going to give us quite a bit more damage with our Blade of Death, which is going to be really nice. Her armor and stuff is significantly higher than it was. It is in a very good place. So if we look, her armor, how is it? It's at about 99,000 at a 170, which is really good. Dampened damage is obviously higher than it was, Dodge needs to be improved, but again, when we get to 1100 jewel score, we're going to put in the other seal. I'll re-link and do all the things that I missed earlier in the build. In the lacrima, we've got our Unos gaiters, the two-handed sword we made, and the necklace we made, which are all very solid. There definitely is some things to do in terms of, even though I did fix up quite a bit of her charm slot upgrades, they still need to be worked on. Some of her charms need to be worked on. So there is a lot of work to do in terms of progression, but her build is doing very well. I think that's everything I wanted to talk about. Obviously, the damage is drastically better than it was. She was doing about 2 billion DPS, and now with this damage test, I actually got less. A previous damage test, I forget what I changed. I had done 64 billion, so 32 times her previous damage on top of a bunch of quality of life things. I think she'll be very happy with the build as it is and as we move forward. And that's the end of this Dr. Dummy. Now, I am going to be doing more Dr. Dummies this season. I'm going to put out a video immediately after this one that is going to be the patient waiting list. I know I said at the beginning of the video that this was going to be the patient waiting list, but I think people are going to get confused by that. So I'm going to put a separate video for that. If you have questions about the build or want to look it up, she is Boogsx, Boogsx on the North American server. If you have suggestions, please let me know in the comments. I will gladly try things, test things. If you're not sure if something maybe is better or not, let me know. With that said, I know these are long videos, but I do feel like they help new players, and that's why I'm getting back into doing Dr. Dummy. I hope you guys stay safe, pet cats, eat broccoli. You'll see me next time.